I want to bring in someone who's helped compile intelligence reports and been a part of these top intel briefings with the president. Samantha Vinograd served as senior advisor to President Obama's national security advisor. You've actually been there supporting President Obama during his meetings with Vladimir Putin. So I'm intrigued by what you think about today. What is Vladimir Putin thinking when Donald Trump seems to contradict his own intelligence agencies on foreign soil, seeming to side with the Russians?
Well, it's interesting. Donald Trump has changed his mind about a lot of things, but he's been very consistent about his policy of appeasing Russia. Now, I think a president should speak with both friends and enemies, but we would have been better off if President Trump hadn't spoken to Putin at all. His public comments suggest that he's more influenced by a foreign government, in this case Russia, than his own intelligence community and a bipartisan majority of Congress. What this tells us is that Vladimir Putin has waged a very successful psychological operations campaign against President Trump that's led him to undercut his own government. Just think about it. Donald Trump appeased Putin publicly today and undercut the U.S. intelligence community and Congress.
And part of the reason that this trip to Asia was so important is because the president wanted to present a united front between Asian allies and North Korea, specifically saying during a speech that he doesn't back down from conflict, but it seems like he's avoiding conflict with Vladimir Putin. What does this say to our allies in that part of the world and really all over the world?
Well, it's ironic that just a few days ago in Seoul, President Trump said the United States does not run away from conflict or confrontation. He did exactly that today, which tells Vladimir Putin that Vladimir Putin can continue to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, at no cost, including attack the United States again. It also tells Kim Jong-un that the United States doesn't respond to a direct attack on the homeland. That's a very dangerous message to send to a guy that's threatened to launch missiles at the United States.
Right. The other question here that I wanted to ask you was specifically about the reasoning that Donald Trump gives for not confronting Vladimir Putin. He says that it would damage the relationship, that he'd rather talk to him about North Korea, about Ukraine, about Syria. But can't he do both? I mean, don't our interests, at least with North Korea, naturally align to a point where he could confront Vladimir Putin and say, we have to do something mutually about Kim Jong-un?
The success of a bilateral meeting isn't determined by whether both leaders are smiling at the end. I've worked for a Republican president and a Democrat, and I can tell you that bilateral meetings involve talking about areas of mutual interest as well as mutual concern. Donald Trump's failure to actually confront Vladimir Putin about this election meddling means that Putin thinks he has the upper hand, and Donald Trump is not going to be able to negotiate with him on a level playing field on these complex issues like North Korea and Ukraine.
So very quickly, because we're short on time, then who stands up to him?
Well, I think that Congress can do so, and we can implement the sanctions on time, which will start to send a clear message. All
right. Samantha Vinograd, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the perspective. It's been nearly